Welcome to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Welcome back to the Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Great conversations going on priceofbusinesstv.com. You ought to be a part of that chat. That's the best way to get straight to the conversation with our guest. Shannon Register, our next guest. She's going to give us a real estate update and more, and glad to have you on the program, Shannon.
Thanks, Kevin. How you doing?
Doing fine, thanks. So what do you have lined up for us here this week?
Well, there's a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about today. One is just the direction of real estate right now. We've got some changes going on in the industry. And the other is, we've talked before about all the rental properties out there right now. Wanted to give you an update on some of the things to be aware of with rental properties.
Okay, sounds good. Kind of give us that overview, if you will, of what's happening.
Well, we talked before about there's an increasing amount of people right now renting, some because they're on the fence about whether to buy right now because we've seen the issues with the interest rates. Everybody's waiting kind of for the bottom. And we know they're starting to go up now. So we've had a lot of people on the fence waiting to buy up to this point. And then also because of all the short sales and foreclosures, we've got a lot of people out there renting houses that otherwise normally owned properties. So one of the things that is concerning is the fact that we've got a lot of investment properties that are being foreclosed on, and they have renters in those properties. And sometimes the renters just come home and don't even know that the property is getting foreclosed on if their landlord hasn't been talking to them about what's going on, and they get locked out of the house. It can be quite a problem.
Yeah, that would be pretty traumatic, and there's not a whole lot an individual can do about it, is there, or is there?
There's not a whole lot they can do, so you really need to know your landlord and keep in touch with them and make sure that they're paying their bills. But another thing is, it's a lengthy process to get your items back once the house had the locks changed. So it can be very difficult once it's gone into foreclosure. So you want to know about that beforehand and kind of prevent it from happening. And I've actually had a lot of renters this past year in particular telling me, hey, Shannon, I want to rent something and I want to pay up front because finances are so tight. They want to go ahead and prepay so that they don't have to worry about making their rent on time. And that's really a problem. You don't want to prepay for 6 months just in case something happens.
Yeah, just because you're managing your money well doesn't mean that the landlord is.
Exactly.
So, great question over there. Pam is asking, what about renter's insurance? Could that help mitigate something like this at all?
Well, renter's insurance is usually going to be for your contents of your property.
Right.
It's going to cover the items of value in the property. And that is a very good question. I'll check into that. But as far as I know, renter's insurance is not going to pay out because the items that you're claiming a loss on are just, kind of trapped in someone else's home. They haven't been in a fire or flood or, stolen.
Yeah, although I guess you could make a claim for the recovery of those items if things go really bad.
Right. The people that I've talked to that have kind of been through this situation, they're having to go through attorneys, kind of take the legal route, which is quite costly.
Yeah,
and it takes a lot of time.
Absolutely. I think it's incredible. People need to be aware, and so having a relationship with your landlord makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Instead of paying in advance, unless there's some huge advantage, and again, you have a good relationship with that landlord, you ought to be putting that money aside in a war chest in case something does go bad to your landlord who wasn't as candid with you as he should be.
That's right. And be wary of people who don't really own investment properties. They just have one property that they're renting out. They may not even be aware of all the laws going on with renting properties. For example, there's a lock law out there where when you rent out a property, between renters, you have to change locks on the doors. So, if you have a realtor, they watch out for you in those areas. But if you're just going to a homeowner and renting their property, they don't necessarily know the laws and aren't looking out. I mean, they're definitely not looking out for you. They're looking out for their best interest. So even when you're renting a property, you always want to have a realtor on your behalf.
Yeah, absolutely correct. All right, we are talking to Shannon Register, and she's at rrea.com. And what else were we going to cover? What's next on our list?
One of the things that was so cool I saw come out in the National Association of Realtors magazine was about radio broadcasting and television and the YouTube stuff, what we are so very heavy in at RREA. The National Association of Realtors has finally come out and said, hey, these brokerages that are doing this are moving forward in the market. And it's so true that when you list your property with another company and they're not doing these things for you, you really have a hard time competing with, for example, our brokerage's properties. The things that we do to showcase our properties online, it's a world of difference from the old traditional brokerages that just put it in the MLS.
Yeah, no question about it. Everything has changed, and it's really quite imperative for other realtors to be cognizant of the change, but also those looking for the real estate, correct?
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely.
So what are some things that you think are kind of right around the corner, if you will, when it comes to locating real estate?
I'll tell you one of the really cool things coming out. They have the QR codes that you can use, the barcodes that you can use on products and in magazines and things to link to a website when you take a picture of it with your iPhone app. And one of the cool things that we are about to roll out is an embedded picture or an embedded barcode in a picture. And we'll use this on things like our yard signs, our brochures, that will take you to the video of the property. Just some really cutting edge technology. And if brokerages aren't moving in that direction, they're going to get left behind. Yeah, everybody wants to see videos of the properties, especially those out-of-town buyers.
Yeah, no question about it. So what would you say is the hot story this week when it comes to going on in the real estate industry?
Well, the hot stories right now are what you see on the news. I mean, the world's kind of on fire. So looking at real estate, it's almost a shame if you focus. It seems like a shame if you're focusing on real estate when the world around us is in such a dire straits. But in our area of the country, the great thing about Houston is that our market continues to increase. We've got more listings coming online and getting ready for spring. This is the best time to sell your home this time of year, going into spring and summer. And we continue to see the market coming back here in the Houston area, which is a great thing.
Yeah, continues to rebound. A lot of our listeners over at priceofbusinesstv.com, which I really encourage you to be a part of that conversation because you really add so much to this show, and I think you as a listener are enriched by knowing that you get to have that direct interaction that's hard to get anywhere else. But they talk about a much more dire real estate situation because a lot of my listeners are literally from all over the country.
Right.
I'm telling you, there's other parts of the country that are far worse off than Houston.
Oh yeah, definitely. So, we have buyers right now in our brokerage that just keep delaying coming down buying properties. We check back with them every week, and they just keep delaying it because they're so worried about the properties they're trying to sell. They just can't get under contract on a new house until they can get that old property sold, and it's just rough in their market.
Yeah, Mary's pointing out she's amazed at how much is on the market there in the Woodlands area. That's where she lives. There seems to, and that is an area outside of the Loop that has been performing very well.
It has been, and it continues to perform well. We're still seeing in most of the Woodlands, we are seeing things turn over quickly. There are not problems there with the longevity on the market that we're seeing in other parts of town.
Yeah, no question about it. It's just a totally different situation, totally different circumstances market-wise. So when you look at the various pricing of homes that are out there, what pricing seems to be faring the best right now?
I would say prices under $200,000, and that's because you've got so many people that have been on the fence and they're starting to purchase. Those houses still continue to turn. The houses that are over $250,000, we see a lag in those. A lot of people not wanting to. Those are usually the higher price range or your more savvy buyers, and they just don't want to make a move until they're sure that interest rates aren't going to drop again, and they're ready to push forward and put their money back into housing. They know that we've reached the bottom and we've come out of it.
Yeah, no question about it. And or they don't want to be in the middle of financing and all of a sudden interest rates really go up,
right,
which is also kind of a looming possibility. And this is a lot of insecurity in general. Just the macro, national, and international headlines kind of has an attitude or has an effect, rather, on the attitudes of individual behavior, I think.
Absolutely, it does.
No question about it. All right,
sure.
Shannon, how do we get more information about you and your firm?
Well, you can always find us online at rrea.com and watch our videos at rrea.tv, and you can reach us at 281-288-3500. We always have agents ready to show you properties.
Yeah, again, the website is rrea.com or rrea.tv.com, correct?
rrea.tv.
Thank you very much, rrea.tv. And make sure you check out both of those, and as well as give that number again. 281-288-3500, and it's a great time to put your house on the market if you're looking to sell. Yeah, absolutely. People need to entertain that as a viable option because I'm telling you, it's extremely interesting time indeed when it comes to that. And encourage you to check out the videos. The videos are very well done, very well produced. It's well beyond your typical flip camera or cell phone camera, which frankly, shockingly, I've seen videos for realtors, and that's pretty much what they amounted to. The better ones, in fact, were flip cameras. And so you guys have taken it to a very different level. Thanks very much.
Sure, and we're also on Facebook. You can always find us on our fan page and keep up with real estate news that way.
I encourage you to check them out there. All right, coming up here, next segment, competitive states, Texas versus California, economic growth prospects for the 21st century.